Hello, everybody, and I am here to talk about. Uh, so, I want to compare, you know, religion and identities within the LGBT community. And I know that's kind of a weird comparison, but I figure, hey, flags and. And it, just kind of made me start thinking more about it. And I was thinking that when we look at, you know, when we ask people, about the details of their lives and, like, what religion are you, or what gender are you, what sexuality are you, and in a lot of ways, the way people react to it, to both of those things, are kind of the same, if you think about it. And I wanted to touch base on this just to kind of explain why no one gives a shit about like the specifics of your gender identity or like your sexuality, like because as anyone who's in the LGBT community knows, is there's sexuality, and then there's you know romantic attraction. And oddly enough, I can get on board with that, because I do get it that you're sexually attracted to one thing, and maybe romantically, uh like a platonic kind of romantic side of it. uh Anyhow, I'm not going to go into a lot of detail on that. uh so I was thinking, well, in the same way of, we ask, you know what gender are you, or as a lot of the SJWs like to do, is be like, what's your preferred pronoun? And honestly, it's no one, no one who, no one understands that. So I don't ask it. I don't ask people what their pronouns are unless I know that they know what the hell a pronoun even is. Anyhow, so, I was thinking, there are some gender identities that I'm like, oh gosh, it's cringy, but I can acknowledge, the validness, yes, that's a word, of, of the gender identity. But in a lot of ways, it's so detaily that no one gives a crap. Okay? No one fucking cares. And that's what a lot of people, with, who, LGBT for the most part, don't seem to grasp. So, I'm gonna kind of make comparisons. So in the sense of, like, you might say, if you're asking what's your religion, you might be like, oh, I'm Islam, or I'm Christian, or I'm Jewish, or I'm Wiccan, or I'm atheist, or I prefer to not tell you because I don't really feel like dealing with, you being awkward around me because of my religion. Taoism, Hindu. I do enjoy myself Hindu, and I've done some studying on that, and I've recently heard about Taoism, and that's pretty awesome too. Anyhow, I'm kind of interested in all different religions, so don't mind me. And then, of course, it's like, what gender are you? Male, female, non-binary, or if you happen to be intersex, then intersex, maybe. I don't know. I don't know how intersex people actually answer that. I think for the most part, they just kind of, well, I'll go with this. I'll go with that. I identify as this or that, just, I don't know. I don't know a lot of intersex people. But, and of course, and I'm going to use Christianity as my main kind of go to because I know more details about the ins and outs of that specific religion. And so, and I think, most people, it's kind of like, if I'm Christian and you're, I don't know, Islam, you might ask a few questions, but if you already know some things about Islam and you really don't mind that a person's Islam or whatever, you're just gonna be like, okay, whatever, and move on. And, there's no need to actually get in big, hoofy details about it. And then, of course, there's, now I know this technically falls under non-binary, but I'm actually going to shove it under male and female because for the most part it is still somewhat binary. That's demi-boy and demi-girl. And I think basically any feminine or masculine, non-binary identities that are like very strongly masculine or feminine that, most people will be like, oh, yeah, I'm like, guy, male, whatever. And, of course, if you're in the non-binary realm, you might be like agender, pangender, bigender, gender fluid, whatever. And, in this sense, that's kind of like going into the different denominations of Christianity, which, it's like Baptist, Methodist, Pentecostal, non-denominational. I know there are a few others, but those are the main things of them. And then, of course, a lot of people, like for me, for instance, saying that, I'm a gender, or like demi-agender, would be like me being like, oh yeah, I'm Christian, Baptist, and then, stating the specific Baptist, like Southern Baptist, or I forget what the other Baptist is, which is funny because that's probably closer to what I would be, but whatever. Or at least what I was. I'm I'm actually more complicated on religion, so I'm just kind of throwing out things that I know how to explain, kind of. And so, so it's a lot like that. And then, of course, it's like, at that point, no one gives two shits about, any more of your religion unless you really just have that conversation about it. Like, okay, what do you believe is really right or wrong? What do you agree with the church with? What church do you go to? Blah, blah, blah. And that's a lot of, like, going into specifics on gender. Like, for instance, I would be like, going into that nitty-gritty, I'd be like, yeah, mostly agender, but, some feelings of partial mass, like, mostly agender, and then, like, a third of male, and just kind of sprinklings of everything in there. But it's like, no one no one cares, okay? No one gives a crap. They really don't. And, So that's like one of those things you save for the conversation of that topic. I mean, just the same as religion. But for the most part, most people, if they ask you your religion, most likely they might not even care about what your denomination is, but maybe they do. Or like what extent do you take that religion to, or whatever. I don't know a lot about the other religions. I've just recently started diving into some of that stuff, so, and Christianity is something I've known my whole life. So don't be like, oh my gosh, you don't know anything about other religions, you fucking bigot. Because that's how I feel like everyone wants to treat me. And so, yeah, I mean, and the same can apply to gender identity. It's like, honestly, most people probably don't even care about, you being non-binary. But if it makes you feel so uncomfortable to be recognized as male or female, then maybe throwing out, well, technically I'm non-binary or genderqueer, but, either way, it's going to be interesting trying to explain those two things to people who don't understand it. But you got to have patience, because just like religion, if you don't have the patience to sit there with someone and have a conversation, and a peaceful conversation at that, then, you're not going to get anywhere. And chances are you're just going to make the people hate what you are more. And, that never really solves anything, as many people have come to find. Or as I've come to find a lot. And, and like I said, I mean, maybe someone will be like, oh, like with me, it's like if I say, hey, I'm non-binary, and, although honestly, most of the time I would just go, yeah, I'm a guy. But, if I'm like, I'm non-binary, maybe someone would be like, curious, what do you mean by that? What do you exactly identify as then, if you're not male or female? And I just kind of describe it as a sense of disconnection from both genders, if that makes sense. Because, I think it is kind of hard to comprehend a feeling that you've never felt before. And so, I try to make this all make as much sense as I can. But, usually I don't make sense anyways. But yeah, so that's and like the same would be kind of going into detail with Christianity. If you say you're a Christian, and, someone might be like, oh, that's interesting. What denomination are you, or whatever? And, if you share that same interest, then, of belief in Christianity or whatever, you might ask about where do you guys go to church and stuff like that. But, I mean, for the most part, beyond that, most people don't even care to that extent. So, just, I guess to sum it all up, people care about your gender as much as they might care about what religion you are. Which, honestly, most people believe it or not, most people actually don't. It just doesn't come up. When it does come up, then that can become a different story. But for the most part, if they don't know you're not the same religion as them, they really don't care. And that same rule of thumb can apply to, gender identities and sexualities and all that fun stuff. And just the same as any person who acts violently through their religion and uses that religion as an excuse to be violent is about as much of a dumbass as some of those protesters and rioters out there, you know, getting their panties or whatever gendered clothing underwear they wear in a twist. You know, it's just as equally stupid because it gets nobody anywhere and it just separates us more. So hopefully this is a good parallel to gender identity and religions. And if y'all want me to talk more about religion, I could also talk about religion, but I also talk about a lot of other things on this channel, and at this point I'm pretty sure most people are like, what the hell, potato? What are you trying to accomplish with your channel? And the answer to that is I have no freaking clue. But thanks for watching anyways.